I think I'd like to start the evening's event. And today is a special event. As you know, we are here to celebrate Dr. Gold, Dr. Philip Gold, and Mrs. Gold's journey into the next part of their life. As of next week, I believe, April 1st, Dr. Gold will be retiring. But I think it's also an opportunity for us all because it's a very rare occasion where we're all here together, as a division. So I thought I would do a around the room exercise of just number one, getting to know each other, and number two, share our own personal experience of how Dr. Gold has affected either our personal life or our career. So, as you know, Dr. Gold is known for his story time with a fellow. So, in return, I think we should share our own story with Dr. Gold before he retires, and he's gonna have this as a gift to Dr. Gold. So I'm gonna share my story, and then I'm gonna ask folks in the room, starting with the fellows and also the faculty, to share your story. So the premise of the story needs to have two things. So I'm gonna share my first to give you some time to think about your story. Number one, we have to share something that not everybody knows about that, right? So number one is a personal story that not everybody knows. Number two, number two, how does that story and how did Dr. Gold come in to really affect your personal well-being? So my story. So as you know, I started here in 2003. And of course, everybody knows that I did start in internal medicine, but not a lot of people know, and actually nobody knows, that I had other opportunities before Loma Linda. So I always wanted to be an intensivist, even as a medical student. Right? So I was already applying for UCSF, Stanford critical care program when I finished residency. Application is on track. I also want to interview for faculty position right away because obviously my wife wants me to work. So opportunity was at University of Arizona and UC Davis. And those were actually combined appointments, right, in internal medicine and emergency medicine. University of Arizona was very unique in that the chair of the EM program there was also Dr. Harvey Meisler. Anybody know Dr. Meisler? He's actually was the board of the American Board of Medical Specialties. So for the fellow, our board, individual boards, there's a mother board, right, ABMS, that has purview over ABIM, ABEM, ABS, and everything else. So he was actually the chair on the board. So he was able to basically collaborate with internal medicine chair so that I can start as a faculty and also start my fellowship at the same time, potentially pulmonary and critical care. But Loma Linda seemed like a better place. So I came to Loma Linda and sounds like critical care was not within my reach. So I was in the ED for a few years. So it was 2006, Dr. Lowe, Taka Lowe, you remember Dr. Lowe, said, Brian, why don't you come and see if you can do our fellowship? Well, that has not occurred in the country at the time. So fortunately, my chair of medicine, Dr. John Popovich, I don't know if Aaron knows Popovich, at Henry Ford. So Dr. John Popovich was also on the board of ABIM at the time. And this is when ABIM started making an exception, right, for any pulmonary critical care program to have 2 years critical care fellow. So he told me what to do, and he said, well, go talk to your program director and beg and plead and see if you can make it happen. So I haven't shared that story publicly yet, but that's when Dr. Gold came into my life. So he was able to basically let me change my career basically. Now I know a lot of us here, fellows and faculty, everyone's pretty traditional, right? You get your internal medicine, critical care, if you didn't match at Loma Linda, you probably match somewhere else. But for me personally, if it wasn't Dr. Gold, I would definitely have a different career. So for that, I'm very much indebted to him. I usually don't say that. But if it wasn't for Dr. Gold, my career would not have been like this. So thank you so much, Doctor. That I haven't shared before. Okay, next story.
I'll do mine before the next page hits. So, for those of you,
one exception to your rule is Dr. Gold.
Well, or is he the ultimate corollary of the rule? So, for those of you who don't know, so Dave Children, I've been to the dark side, which is law, and from that, right, what Dr. Christian was referring to is, of course, the famous first lesson of law school, first thing that I learned in law school. Some people are rotten filthy liars. And that does indeed not apply. Okay, thus proving that he is no mere person. He's Dr. In this day and age, right, we are confronted by the reality that there's an attempt to quantify every single aspect of medicine possible. And the irony of that movement is it is falling under the rubric of quality. Well, to me, this gentleman exemplifies quality in medicine. And the reason, ironically, is because of what is so qualitative about him. Right from the first moment I encountered him, and subsequent to that, okay, when we've gotten to share conferences, particularly Schwartz rounds, which is such a wonderfully rich experience for me, okay, it became apparent to me that Dr. Gold was the living manifestation of the art of medicine, which is actually what allows you to understand the perspective of your patient, obtain information from them and about them, so that you can then in turn apply the evidence-based medicine that we would so like to practice. And what occurred to me in our first Schwartz rounds and subsequently is that this is the guy at the end of every conference, when we think every perspective has been explored, who will raise one more that no one else saw. That perspective is extremely valuable. Okay? It is a mark of quality, and it will be sorely missed. I feel fortunate to have gotten exposed to it for as long as I have.
Thank you. That was
We're lucky we didn't lose you to the law.
So I want to say thank you, Dr. Gold. You really made fellowship very unique and into a family. I still remember when I interviewed. I think your secretary at the time had told me that you had a flight to catch. So I was anxious already being in an interview and anxious that you had somewhere to go. But I remember you talked to me in that slow voice, and it seems like there was only time for you to talk to me, and that made me feel very special. And I think that meeting kind of set the tone for the rest of the fellowship. Everybody here I feel like is family, and I remember going through difficult things during fellowship and then kind of growing into like a pulmonary and critical care physician, but I always felt like I could go to you and my family here, and I think it's really the example that you set for everybody. So thank you so much, and thank you, Roberta, too, and meeting Bo and everybody. It was very cute. It was all
I'm another one of the fellows that I think Dr. Gold changed my life. I remember rotating in internal medicine with Dr. Gold. At that time, you were doing some months of general medicine as an attending, and I was on his team. And at the end of the rotation, Dr. Gold said, have you thought about pulmonary and critical care? And I hadn't. I had no idea as a second-year resident what I was going to be doing. But some of you know I like to tinker a lot and build things. And it was thanks to Dr. Gold's suggestion that I applied and got into something that fits me like a glove, I think. It's really very thankful to have been part of this fellowship, and as a fellow, seeing everybody that's come through, to just feel like I've shared that experience with them as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Gold, for your leadership and your kindness and your being a father figure to all of us. Thank you.
So I can also say, like what you've heard so far, that I would not be a sleep specialist here at Loma Linda without Dr. Gold and our friend Ralph, Dr. Downey. I was a psychiatrist, and I had a dream of doing a 1-year sleep fellowship at Loma Linda, which nobody had ever done before, and there was no way it was going to get done without Dr. Gold. And so I remember when we kind of had to pitch this to him, and he's like, Dr. Gold, you know, he's probably not going to look at you much. He's going to just be very soft-spoken. He's very kind. But don't worry about it. This was Ralph. It's going to be okay. And of course it was. But here's a story that I haven't shared. Ryan, you wanted us to do this. So I was a psychiatrist, and we don't touch patients. And so I was a little bit nervous about going and working in a pulmonary sleep clinic, because after second year of residency in psychiatry, we don't, do a lot of touching and listening and stuff. So I didn't tell anybody that, but I knew how skilled Dr. Gold was at physical exam. So I paid a lot of attention to the way that you talk to patients and you got the information. I used the techniques that he uses now to determine jugular venous distension after seeing that modeled by you so many times. So that's something that I hadn't shared with anybody, and some of those skills I still use today in the clinic. So I'm very blessed to have known you, and I wish the best for you. And I hope that you'll come by every once in a while, or send me an email or something and let me know how you're doing. So thank you so much.
Wow, 37 years ago, like 1981, springtime, Loma Linda VA Hospital. First year resident Doug Hickstead is nervous because he's got to do that annual witnessed exam. And he's got to do it with a doctor that he knows is really good, named Phil Gold. And as we walked those hallways over there, the smog in the building was much worse than the smog outside. You could not see, truly, from one end of the hall to the other in that air of smoking in the building. But anyway, I located a patient on 4 Northwest who I thought would have some findings and things would work out okay. It was a guy with big time ascites, oral hypertension, various things, and when the day came, I was pretty nervous. I went in there to do this exam. Dr. Gold watching me as I get the history from this guy, do my physical, and I present the thing to him a few minutes later, and he said, you're not done yet. I said, I know I got to write things up. He said, yes, but what do you think about that scrotum that's almost the size of a bowling ball? And I said, I think it's pretty large. And then he said, what do you think it feels like? And I said, I don't think it feels very good. He said, I want you to do something about it. And this wasn't my patient. It was just a patient that had been picked out. What can I do? So he's gone now, and I'm there looking at the guy, trying to figure out what needs to happen. And finally, I built a sort of a little tower out of towels and various other things, cotton that I thought was soft, and lifted things up as much as I could, thinking if they get a little higher, maybe there'll be a little less propensity for fluid. And when negotiated with the senior resident on the team, took about 5 liters out of the guy's belly, and sure enough, got the guy a little more comfortable after that. But to me, I think this kind of supports what some of you guys say. There's just that one more thing. I thought I counted all the angiometer, thought I found that spleen, and then I kind of glossed over the one thing, and he said, do something about it. And I think that's been a lesson that just echoed for me. And I think not just the observation of what's wrong with somebody, something needs to be done, but I think Phil has also had a gift for recognizing possibilities, things that we might be able to do. And, you know, when I was pretty early in my career working over at the county hospital, I was pretty sure not too many people knew I was up to. Phil called me up one day, he said, Dud, I've been elected governor of American College of Physicians. There's this thing called Governor's Council, and I want you to be on it. Okay. And, you know, over time he kept pushing on stuff. After a while I got elected as governor with him lobbying for people to vote a certain way. And I think just the consistency of that possibility, your visits over to the county hospital just to say hi, to give me encouragement, and again, helping create the context for new possibilities. So I'm pretty sure that some of the things that came my way wouldn't have happened, and I imagine there's a few of you in this room who think maybe that was the one mistake Phil's made in his career. But Phil, thank you for what you've done for me. Thank you for the possibilities you've seen in all of us.
Dr. Gold, thank you so much. You know, I don't know if most of the fellows and some of the attendees know this, that I had applied for fellowship numerous times before I eventually matched. And I remember having that last interview with Dr. Gold. The whole group, Dr. Wynn was there, Dr. Christian was there, I think Dr. Anholm was there. And towards the end of the interview, we were talking about technology, we were talking about business, and I was talking about tele-ICUs and telemedicine, and you asked me this question, like, do you think, it was in the context of, do you think that technology would replace what physicians do? And just asking that question brought so much insight into how you think, your perspective on humanity. And I remember taking just a seat and thinking, and you know, and truly the reason for technology or these tele-ICUs, or in that context that we were talking about, was as an extension to what we do as intensivists, to take this technology to places where it's not available. And that has been a very impactful interview with you, Doctor. And the other thing I wanted to share is, my father used to say that you have 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth. And you have been the example amongst, you know, thousands of people that I've met who live that way. And it's very difficult to do, and I aspire to have that quality. Thank you.
So I agree. I think that all of us can just look in awe at your sort of seamless ability to combine your heart and your wisdom and impart that to all of us. And I'm no exception. I think there's no one who has affected me in my medical career as much as you. There's hands down, there's just not even a question. But for I guess I don't really have a story, because I just want to sort of be mushy and tell you that you know, I value all of this, and I won't rehash what I said in your lecture, but but honestly, for the future, when I daydream about the people I want in my life and my goals and what's important to me, and surrounding myself with people who inspire me and encourage me, and just people that I love, I always think of you. We had a party, and you and Roberta were the first people on the invite list, because
it was a great group.
Oh, I mean, but it's just you're wonderful. You're without being able to articulate a whole lot more. Just both of you are so wonderful, and you mean the world to me, absolutely. And I think of you and look forward to good times, eating and drinking and chatting and everything to come.
Appreciation of your service and dedication and humanities to the whole division, the institution. We have this small token of our appreciation for your service over the years. So on behalf of the division of pulmonary critical care, hyperbaric and sleepness, it says Loma Linda University Health to Philip M. Gold, MD, MACP, MCCP, Professor of Medicine, Master Clinician, Educator, Leader, Mentor, who was a division head from 1984 to 2012, Fellowship Program Director from 1985, I think we were one of the first fellowship, to 2016. In addition, also as a faculty with numerous leadership responsibilities at the university, at the medical center, and also at the VA, from 1977 to present. In great appreciation of your service, wisdom, values, and vision, on behalf of the division of the Lord.
I don't know if I get to say anything at this point. I'm going to. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the many wonderful memories that you've created for Roberta and I over a number of years. I've actually been to at least 3 weddings of people here, including Dr. Fargo, Dr. Eggstead, and this guy down here with a mouthful. And whoever said that we're a family was absolutely right. I want to thank Bryant for conceiving of this wonderful party. I can recall very vividly that Ken Mosier told me, just as I was beginning my professional career, he said, never pass up the opportunity to have a party. It was great advice, and I followed it. I know Doug knows that. I don't know where he learned it, and Brian seems to have caught on too. I think it's so important when you have a group of people that you admire and respect and love, that you party together. So I hope this is a tradition that continues long into the future. Said some very, very kind and meaningful things tonight. Didn't know whether to cry or blush, but they touched my heart. So thank you all for being here, and once again, thank you for this beautiful memory of wonderful time and career at Loma Linda. Appreciate it very much.